This device, this incredible DAC, is probably my favorite buy in a long time. I'm astonished how good it is. I know on YouTube and elsewhere people are singing praise about this DAC, and I'm supposed to chime in with some unique view and opinion. I can just try to assure you that through another view prism and with my tests, this DAC showed up incredibly, and the philosophy of separates can continue on to infinite and back in hi-fi world, but that fact is that hi-fi sound is a reluctant misanthrope. It loves to be separated from the group, but also to be close to others to fully bloom, as they work better that way, as individual engineering can spend all its effort into creating specific segment of audiophile sound better than if it is just part of bigger picture like integrated amp. And the benefits are far more clean sound, as it is far easier to isolate capacitors and power supplies when it is an external box, rather than it is in a box where you have amp, preamp and DAC, so as little as possible noise interference will go that way. And the fact is, unless your integrated amp is around 4,000 to 5,000 onward euros, you will not match this DAC in quality. So your sound will benefit greatly from this device. Your CD player, your music streamer are going to reach new heights this way. They will climb up more on this never-ending audiophile mountain of a perfect sound. And yeah, that minimalist in your heart that loves less clutter and enjoys all-in-one experience will be damn impressed when he hears how your music now sounds more open, clear and present. Let's take few keywords here that needs to be highlighted, like a quote at the back of a product packaging. It should say, Denafrips will make your music become real in front of you. They will remove every obstacle, unveil all the fog and allow musicians to freely extend their talents on the grand stage it creates. And I think €1,000 is a great price range. Now listen to me, I don't think it is cheap. I certainly don't think this is a best value DAC on the market. But there is a value in what Denafrips offers, and that is a value of audiophile experience which cannot be experienced for cheap, as it is supposed to be a DAC you strive for, a destination device, maybe for some even an endgame DAC. And this DAC is superbly versatile and capable, with 32-bit DSD up to 1024, an MQA decoder, coaxial, optical and USB out. It truly can satisfy even the most seasoned audiophile, and that value could have been easily in a device costing around €500 more, as what Denafrips does is amazing in this price range, and therefore it is a good priced DAC. We will often talk about value here on this channel, and it should not be a taboo. No matter how good the device is, it should be filtered through market propositions, how well it fits with asking price of other devices. Device can be a super expensive one, it could be out of my reach, which to be honest many are, but as long as I see value in it, and that is even taking in consideration a creeping value of diminishing return, I am fine with it. I can only envy people who can afford them, but to me, these are destination and journey is young in front of me, and journey can be different. This could easily be a endgame DAC for some, for others it might be chord cutest, for others high-end PS audio or benchmark DACs. On that journey, I will grow up as a human and audiophile. I will learn to appreciate small things, cheap things, expensive things, and hard efforts and honest work. We just must be happy that we live in a world that creative people are creating magic that we can only dream of, and is making our love for audiophile even stronger. Okay. Enough with the daydreaming. You probably want reality of this sound, described as little of verbatim from my side and concise as possible. I will try, but I cannot guarantee. And this one is really good. I am in love in this DAC. You know, the first thing you hear when music starts playing through your speakers is how suddenly the soundstage gets wider in every single direction, both vertically and horizontally. If you have talented speakers that can throw that dispersion, they are going to be pushed to maximum to throw the biggest reach possible. One great point of DAC is how much it cuts noise interference and keeps distortion at bay at, of course, reasonable volume. And when switching between DAC from like Arkham A15 and Audiolab 9000A, it is very telling of unveiling new empty spaces these instruments are playing in. The background is getting black and clear, so this DAC does a good job. And it not just helps with clarity of background, it helps with separation of instruments. And when instruments have enough room, they can also expand further on dynamic scale. They can be richer. I think this is also about synergy with amp that you pair it with that will allow richness of dynamics to shine. But it truly helps. It helps by doing the sole purpose of DAC fantastically, and that is organization and declutter. You can say in hi-fi system, DAC is like an accounting company, helping with all the incoming rules, paperology, money, and managing it so it can be organized and sent to other teams to be used. Organized and processed neatly, and it just does that by superbly using instruments that are in treble, mids, and bass and finding a great place for them, and using that bits of information to highlight it and enhance it. So it is your sources that extract information and send it to DAC, maybe already superbly packed, sometimes rudimentally, but it is a DAC that takes that information and repackage it so it sends it to amp to make it bigger and speakers to reproduce it the best they can. And you think now, well, it is in the middle of this chain, it must color the sound on its path. And like every great DAC, it is neutral and balanced, which is a great thing. I want my DAC to remain as neutral as it can. I let my speakers and amp color the sound. Same thing how I like sources to work. It does not allow anything to peak, no treble, no bass, it just does what it's supposed to do. And with such a clarity and separation, you get vocal to be more visible. And same like with every instrument, a visibility, it helps with the listening sessions of more acoustic music to be clean, present, and lush. There's a lot of information like resonances, reverberations, and timbre in vocals that makes this a great listening experience. It truly brings realism to vocals. And the truth is, its neutrality is great. There is no roll-off into treble or bass territory, which is a great thing considering this should work as a bridge in a chain of synergy to organize, shape, and enhance your music and to color it as least as possible. Some might call the sound dry in that regard, but I don't metaphor it that way. To me, it does what it should do great without infusing its character into overall mix. It lets the big boys parade their character and strengths. But, as I mentioned earlier, what this DAC does to soundstage is amazing. Its clarity, rich, dynamics, open the sound in such a way you will be in awe. Certainly the strongest point of this amazing DAC. When you hear sound compactualized like that you can, when you close your eyes, imagine in your head where every instrument is coming from, and you can pick instruments in far left and far right with such a clarity and precision, you know you have a special one in your home. Equally as impressive is how much I don't have bad things to say, which troubled me honestly. Usually I have few words here or there, sometimes just few words, sometimes many sentences to speak about cons of a device. Here, for this price, I only have problems with interfacing and features. They might be highly subjective at that. Firstly off is those small red light dots at a certain angles are almost invisible. and I don't know if the DAC is on or off. It happened to me more than once that I forgot to put it in standby mode, as I did not see if it was on or off, especially when you stand. Secondly is filters. So Denafrips have 3 filters. It has 1 non-oversampling and 2 oversampling with slow and sharp roll-off. In my opinion, there is one king there, and it is oversampling with a slow roll-off. It just made the sound most pleasing to my ears. Why make this DAC a bit warmer with non-sampling or artificial with sharp filtering? But that is not a problem. Everybody should have ability to choose filters and to set sound to its liking. The problem is, unless you have a manual with you, there is no way for you to know how to access them, even that they exist. Even if you know, until it becomes muscle memory, you will always have to refer to manual how to activate it. And when products forces you to use manuals to do something often, it is a bad design, and it should not be case in this price range. The filters are accessed when your DAC is in a mute mode, and then by choosing option 1 or 2, you can switch between filters. That is such an insanity to me that I have no words. Otherwise, construction seems sturdy enough and buttons are okay, not ideal, but I can live with them. One thing I did not mind but could be a problem for some people is that it does not push and kick in any direction specifically. If someone have a very balanced and neutral system, he might be disappointed with the lack of verve and upped in dynamic scale. He might miss a little bit of passion, as it will not give him a big thump in bass or live and forward highs. One thing I have to add more is that the shielding around capacitor is not the highest quality. So you can have easily some noise interference coming from your cables, power cables, because if it's connected in a socket which has a lot more devices in it, it can easily hear this sort of like strain on a device. And it could be helped dramatically by buying an external power supply. It will definitely provide DAC with more cleaner sound and like cleaner power supply, which would definitely be beneficial. I don't think you should pay like more than 1,000 euros, like not even more than 500 euros to buy a power supply. I think like 200, 300 euros power supplies are just fine, but it could help. I noticed this when I connected it to my CD player, how sometimes the DAC was struggling to receive power as it just requires a bit more cleaner power supply. I would like to compare this to 2 devices I know, and it falls into 2 categories. One is a best value DAC with Chord Mojo 2 and direct competitor in topping D90 Saber III. Chord Mojo 2 is maybe the most famous DAC on planet, and for a good reason. It gives tremendous value in its price range. Now the main question here is this additional 400 euros well spent with Denafrips? And the answer is yes. At least for me. Now, the difference is that Chord Mojo 2 is portable, can work without power as it has its own power bank. It has a headphone output, more precise equalization, so in reality Mojo 2 is more versatile device. And if you want to use this as a DAC and preamplifier for your headphones, then of course Mojo 2 is a more logical choice. One thing more to add is for Mojo 2 is that its natural state without equalizing is a bit more treble rich, as it have on a dynamic scale a bit rolled off treble, so it gives a little bit more lively representation. But beside that, Ares II is more rich in its resolving. It have a bunch more details that your speakers can resolve. It throws bigger soundstage. It tackles more transients, and you can feel that separation is more better, including the placing instruments on stage. It is not that Mojo 2 is bad at all of this. On contrary, it does all of this great also. But Ares II is just a better DAC at every criteria. But then again, for 400 to 500 euros less, you get 75 to 80% of sonic qualities of Ares. If you're interested in my full review of Chord Mojo 2, please look in the description of this video. The second is topping. The mighty topping flagship device D90 Saber. And the question which one is better should be only decided by the listener's needs. Topping is quite quick DAC. Its transients are fast. It quickly disperses and connects it to the next sound. It is really neat in that regard, and it gives more clearer picture and blacker background than Denafrips. It have a great separation among instruments and rounding them incredibly that you can hear all the information appearing very neutral, almost rounding up the edges of instruments that you feel vividly sparkingly those details. But Denafrips does something I like more personally. It creates a deeper soundstage. It just organizes information on that stage that every instrument have its lane and passage, and with that creates a bigger dispersion. Topping just have a little bit more extension in bass and treble, even though I felt dynamics to be a little bit richer on Denafrips. Not something dramatically and not something you can actually hear if not side by these devices. But in the end, if you like clinical sound to your music and you care a lot about separation, transparency and precision, I think topping is a little bit more your better friend here. But if you care more about bigger soundstage, more dynamics and a bit more detail retrieval than topping, then Denafrips is your friend. Yes, I can say with confidence that I think that you cannot buy better DAC than this in this price range. It will become the heart of your system. It will highlight every sound, every note, and make it more bigger and richer. Every other gear in your system will sound better in the process and will breathe new life into them. It honestly, with just one gear, you update your entire system. So it brings even more value that way. While I can appreciate integrated amps and even all-in-one systems, maybe just consider having a separate DAC. It brings new life to everything and makes sound much better, and even if you buy far cheaper DAC than this, it will transform your system into a whole new beast. While I can appreciate the integrated amps and all-in-one systems, maybe just consider having a separate DAC. It brings new life to everything and makes sound much better, and even if you buy like far cheaper DAC than this, it will transform your system into a whole new beast, as DAC is usually the weakest point of every integrated system. I love this DAC, and I think certainly you will too. I don't see me changing this DAC for a long time, and I can even say that this is my favorite buy in a long time. I am that much happy, and it will be part of my sonic arsenal for a long time on my journey. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, and donate if you can via Patreon. Keep daydreaming and see you in the next video. Bye!